Welcome to Higher Ed Demand Gen Video Podcast by Concept3D. A little bit about Concept3D. We have served the education community for over a decade with our award-winning interactive maps and virtual tours. Improve your campus communications, engagement, and recruitment with our powerful visual communication tool. My name is Shiro Tori. I will be your host today. I'm speaking out of our snowy office here in Denver, Colorado today. It is really coming down here. And today I'm joined by Marketing Cloud Solution Advisor at Purdue's Alumni Association, Martin Sickafoose. Very excited for you to join us today. Do you want to start us off with a quick fun fact about yourself?
Fun fact, I've been at Purdue University for a little under 17 years. And so I've been, half of my career spent in higher ed. But in the past, I've done everything from working trade shows to doing different environmental graphics, and actually had my own agency in Pittsburgh.
I didn't know about the agency. That's awesome. Was that an off track in between your 17 years or before that?
Right before, actually.
Very cool. Sweet. So I know you said you've been working with both the central marketing team and now you're on the alumni team. How are those two marketing departments different in the things that you do, the way you target, how you speak to your customers?
Yeah, I think it is a great question. So in the central marketing side of the world at Purdue, the focus is really on brand and brand storytelling. And so it's now run with a different CMO, Ethan Braden, and they're doing a tremendous job of really boosting the Purdue brand. My role in the past was working and focusing on digital marketing for Purdue and overseeing the website and the mobile and social side of the world. But when you're at central marketing, you're talking to millions of people. You're looking for prospective students who want to come to Purdue's campus. You're talking with, their parents as well. You're also kind of reaching out to alumni and donors, but in a smaller facet, not so targeted. But then you've got corporate partners and government partners, people that just want to know and follow the brand from a sporting or athletics perspective. So you've got this wide range of people you're kind of trying to cast that net around. And so it's really interesting to look at central marketing and focus on the brand of who is Purdue, what is Purdue all about. And since my time there, I moved over into the alumni side in 2017, it's totally shifted and the brand's just gotten stronger and stronger visibly. And the stories that are being told and even how we're, focused on protecting our students here on campus has really been, a tremendous uptake from the office that I used to be a part of. When you step into alumni marketing, it's kind of interesting. And the whole reason I stepped over is the challenge of, really focusing on your alumni and the donors. And you get a few friends that kind of tag along with that, again, from the athletic side. But to me, I was speaking 1 to 630,000 alumni as opposed to 1 to millions of people. And so when you've got that kind of focused audience, it makes it a little easier and sometimes a little bit more challenging because they know Purdue, they know the brand. They're friends, family, and donors and alumni of the brand. Mm-hmm. But you've got to talk to them as if, you've got to be that resource for them. So to me, it's really kind of interesting to be able to step into a smaller market or a smaller audience base, but think of the new ways to really re-engage them because their experience of Purdue may have stopped, 2 years ago or may have stopped 50 years ago. And they have that memory and that perception of what Purdue is, but Purdue's constantly changing. So you're always out there trying to tell that story of this is the new part of Purdue. This is why you need to come back to campus for homecoming. This is how you need to engage with us again.
Was there a big shift in messaging when you switched teams? I presume because you're talking to a different audience.
Yeah, it's a little bit of shift. So, in similar facets, when you're at central marketing, you're trying to be that resource for all those audiences, especially those prospective students. You're trying to tell them what their future could be. When you're talking to alumni, one of the big things that we were focused on was trying to be a resource for our alumni. Most of the time when I would go out and speak to audiences and announce that I was part of our alumni association, I'd always ask, what's your first perception of the alumni association? And resoundingly, everybody would be like, you're the people that ask me for money. I'm like, no, that's not actually us. That's our foundational side, which are the fundraisers. And, there's a necessity for fundraising, but I was on just the total engagement side. And so I always try to explain, we're here to be a resource for you.
Mhm.
So whether that's trying to find your way back to campus, if, people sometimes need, their past records from campus, we've got that kind of pipeline. But more importantly, how do we kind of create a wellness aspect for our alumni and be there as that resource for them, whether it's, a personal or professional or even, intellectual kind of growth and learning kind of capacity. How can we be that resource for our alumni that they can come back to us and ask us those questions? And if we don't know the answers, we can point them to the people that would.
Got it. Okay, that's great. So instead of just asking for donations, you're really trying to engage and create resources for your alumni. What are some of the like tactics you're using to actually achieve that?
So a lot of it is, email outreach and social media. So still in that kind of digital vein. And
Mhm.
we've seen that, email and social are really those connection points. Certain demographics respond to certain parts of, Facebook versus Instagram. We've got
Got
Pinterest
it.
accounts and we've, talked about the social landscape and how you can reach different demographics. And also a lot of them still respond to, the emails that we send out or even direct mail pieces. We have an alumni magazine that we send out, now twice a year
Yeah.
in a digital format to tell those stories of here's what your fellow peers or alumni are doing. Here's what's happening on campus. Here's a message from our CEO or a message from the president of the university, and it's really reaching out to those different venues of engagement, or I guess different media type of engagement that you can
Mhm.
really kind of gain that interest and see how people are responding to you.
So I heard about 7 different marketing channels just now:
Yeah.
direct mail, email, social media. What else? Phone. How big is your team that you're working with? That sounds like a lot to manage.
So the marketing team here within the Purdue for Life Foundation is about 15 people.
Uh huh.
And that's kind of in transition as well. So I've stepped out of my leadership of marketing from the alumni side and focused more on the marketing engagement and marketing automation side, not only for the foundation but also across our campus again. And so the team's now led by our assistant vice president Lisa Talley, who's overseeing the creative, editorial, and production team that focuses on that marketing. And it's a team of about 16 people, graphic designers, multimedia designers, videographers, editors, social media people, a web person to pull it all together. And so it's kind of a comprehensive team and about the size of the team, digital marketing wise, that I was managing at Purdue and
Hmm.
Central Marketing.
Gotcha. I, I know you mentioned several channels, and I know the audience is a little different for, like, let's say Facebook versus Pinterest. Are you segmenting the content and the things you're sending them based on channel
Yeah.
and audience as well?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of that is kind of focused on here's the same theme of the message, but how do we
Hmm.
change it tone wise? How do you kind of adapt that and adjust it for the audience or the demographic? So with some of our older audience, and that's where we see our older audience engage with us on Facebook a little bit more than Instagram or Twitter.
Mm. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
you'll kind of get a chance to tell the story and add a video to it and ask for kind of a make a call or and ask for a gift or to register for an event. So Facebook's really a great platform for that, whereas our younger audience really kind of responds to the video that we put into Twitter or
Hmm.
an Instagram takeover, and we've got students running around doing some things on campus and showing off what is happening on campus. I used to kind of joke because even in central marketing, walking across campus and you'd hit a snowy day like you've got there in Colorado, I would actually take pictures as I was walking to the office and hand them off to a social media person to post. And the flood of people that would comment on that were the parents of our students that had dropped them off in August and never seen campus and snow, or our alumni that were reminiscing over, oh, I remember what campus used to look like and what building is that. And so it really started a conversation just by simple things like posting what campus looks like in snow.
Wow. So, like, was that your plan when you posted that first video? Were you like, okay, this is gonna be the video that gets engagement, or Just
No,
trial and
it
error?
was just more or less just kind of trying things out and
Yeah.
seeing, what it looks like. And as I walk across campus coming into the office, it was a perfect chance to say, we've got some iconic, statues and different landmarks on campus. Taking pictures of those in the snow and just, gave us a gallery of things of this is what's going on in campus today. And it brings a lot of, memory back for, even recent alum who had to make that, trek across campus and, 10 inches of snow or something.
Yeah. We want a snow day, right?
No more
um,
snow days.
I know you talked about a couple metrics on how you gauge success. What are some of the things you were really looking at as gauging success in your current position and or with your alumni association?
Yeah. To me, it's always about data. We can go back and measure pretty much everything that we do outreach wise.
Mhm.
Whether it's sending out magazines with survey cards in them or sending out a digital version of the magazine just to see how people respond. Now it's kind of about open rates and click-through rates in email and looking at what that journey path is. And measuring Google Analytics website traffic and seeing where those referencers are coming from. Is somebody clicking on something in social media that's taking them into our website, and then are they signing up for an event? Are they converting on making a gift? From there we can kind of measure that behavior path, and to me that's really phenomenal because then I can start to track all those behavior paths. And where it's kind of interesting, you start out really large scale and measuring everybody that's coming through. You can start to segment based on the demographic of where they're coming from, as well as who's coming through and looking at age groups. And then you can kind of start to do broad general persona or personalization or personas around, okay, we know this type of demographic is going to respond to this email and click through and go here and possibly make a gift. Eventually you can take that broad scope of persona marketing and turn it into a very one-to-one kind of personalization marketing based on this is how I know people are engaging with us. They clicked on this social media piece, they went over, signed up for an event, they've attended 4 different events and they really like this one, and now they're making a donation based on this.
I'm trying to picture that all in my head right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, and
That's
it's really
insane.
nice because from a CRM perspective, it's collecting all that data,
Yeah.
and from all those tangential pieces, you've got what's coming from social, what's coming from web, what's coming through a phone call, and what's coming from direct mail interactions, people sending us checks. And you start to collect all that, and then you put it into a CRM where you can really kind of measure what that 360-degree view of a person is and see their interactions. And now we're just starting to collect all that data, but then actually kind of explode it out a little bit to where, well, now I know this person works at this corporation. They're one of 1,200 people that also went to Purdue that are working for this corporation, and you can kind of track that, and then you can talk to that corporate partner and say, listen, you've got 1,200 Purdue alumni working there. Is there something we as the foundation or the association can do to re-engage them and to make them happier in their workplace, and again be that resource for them, and make your corporation stronger because you've got a stronger base of Purdue alumni working for them that feel connected to each other but also feel connected to your company.
Got it. And I suppose that brings better applicants to their company too, right? And so it's a win-win relationship.
It definitely is. The more that you have kind of that insight on the individuals you're tracking, working with, from a marketing perspective, you always kind of think it's a little creepy because you do things like retargeting ads and pull people in from places, but you're providing them that really kind of personalized experience. And to me, I think that's what a lot of people are now expecting. And so that's where measuring this, collecting all this and storing it so you can go back and make references. And like I said, you can kind of go both ways. You can get to that personalized level and collect all that data, but they're one person of this type of group. And so how do we market to this group? But then sooner or later, it's like, well, I know this one person really likes this and I can market very specifically to them.
Got it. Yeah. I think this is one of the topics we talked about on our intro call together, and how you're really passionate about personalization in marketing. And I think the example you gave me was a lot of people at Purdue are study engineering, but they'll go off and be a lot of business folks, right? They'll go from engineering into business and tracking that data so that you're providing relevant information in the future as a resource as opposed to engineering information.
But
And that was super interesting. Do you have like some grand plans in place for your future at Purdue in terms of Salesforce Marketing Cloud and all this personalization that you're doing?
well, I think it comes down to working with our campus partners to figure out what that personalization and that path is. To me, it always comes back to what a customer journey is, and whether it's a customer journey for a prospective student, where we know, where they're coming out of high school, if they're local, if they're, in the United States or even international, the marketing's different because you talk to them in a different way. If it's an alumni, you can kind of gauge on how long they've been out of school to really kind of tie that message back and forth. It's knowing what that customer journey is. And the more we talk across campus to look at those customer journeys, we can track those interactions. So as you put it, we are a STEM-based school, so focused on engineering, science and technology as well. But we also have a College of Liberal Arts, which I'm a grad of. Now, I probably align myself more with our business school based on the marketing that I do. But, I know all the people that work here. And so to me, going from being a graphic designer when I graduated 30 years ago to being a marketer where I am now, my allegiance, I guess, is slightly shifted. And I'm more interested in, engaging with other alumni that are marketing as opposed to the alumni that are graphic designers.
Right. That makes
That's
sense.
nothing wrong with it, but my career's evolved. And if Purdue knows how my career's evolved, then they can market to me better. And so to me, that's what we need to kind of find out. Plans across Purdue, we're looking at marketing automation and how we tie all that information back into each other. So we know what's really resonating. And I think when we first talked, one of the things I've always strived for probably the last 10 years or so in my career is really finding out how we do that personalization, whether it's, web, mobile, or social, or email, to make it resonate with people. And, we all kind of talk about it in the industry of kind of the Netflix or Amazon version of our websites. But in higher ed, that's kind of hard to find because you've got so many audiences. And so it's really, how do you identify the audience as they're coming to your website to say, oh, you're a prospective student, flip the whole website design to say, here's what you need to know as a prospective student. Well, then when that student turns around and shares that, website with their parents, it's like, well, how do you track it and change it for the parent of a prospective student? Or how do you change it to a current student or a faculty, staff, or an alumni? And so you kind of look and shift. And that's where I think collecting all this data is going to make it a lot better for us to be able to understand, how do we personalize our website? How do we personalize these experiences of engagement with our audiences to make it so they know that we care about them? And that's, the goal of pretty much every corporate out there. But other than the retail organizations that you're seeing it from, in higher ed, it's really kind of hard to predict to say, okay, well, we know this about, X person, this is how we want to market to them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Creating a Netflix head of your marketing channel for higher ed.
I think it'd
That's
be
awesome.
great. And I know there's a lot of us out there in higher ed that are doing personalization and different things with our websites and how we do our emails. But we've got to get it down to that science of, I know what Martin's interested in. This is how I'm going to market to him. I know where he gives and why he gives and what, is really an affinity to him. This is how I want to speak to them, because then you feel like, okay, Purdue's listening to me, and I might be one of 630,000 alumni, but when I'm spoken to in a personalized fashion, I feel like it's a one-to-one conversation as opposed to 1 to 600,000.
Yeah. I mean, when you say the number of 630,000, that's like terrifying for me to hear. I mean, my marketing list is a couple thousand and I'm trying to personalize, and like, how do you even get started with that? Like with segmentation and creating
Well,
groups.
we've got a lot of good partners that do a lot of data, analysis for us and figure out what segmentations are. But it is, us kind of listening and seeing what resonates. And it's a lot of tests. You can't just, jump into 2022 and say, here's my personalized website and it works. The changes we made to the Purdue website really started, you know, philosophically in 2012 with some ideas that manifested itself in 2014. We changed the site in 2014, 2015, and 2017 based on what we were seeing data wise. And we're still doing that. And so that's where you've got to get it. You can't just, say, this is it, and this is the personalized version. Just like, Amazon and Netflix have to keep changing, we need to be doing that too. And so it's ever evolving piece, which is why I really like digital marketing and that facet of, looking at the personalization side, because there's always new tech around. And there's always something new that we can add in or tie in. And okay, this is how we're going to interact with somebody. This is the way they prefer. We are a Salesforce client, but one of the things that I found really interesting is last year when Salesforce purchased Slack. Now, where does Slack come into the interactions that we could actually have with our alumni or constituents on Slack, as opposed to sending them out emails? It's like, join the Slack channel and have this conversation. Would that resonate with them? Or is it something that they'd be like, oh, it's just one more thing that I need to focus on? Or would they feel like, hey, Martin's sitting behind the screen and having this conversation with me on Slack. This is something that's really interesting.
Yeah, I remember that purchase. I haven't even thought about that yet. Maybe it'll take, my guess is maybe 2 years something will come out, because it's probably about the time when Pardo started doing some
Well,
work with
I was going to
Salesforce.
say,
Yeah.
I think, things are rapidly changing. Just
Yeah,
what we've
right.
seen in the last 2 years. I had some conversations with other alumni marketing peers. We all had to kind of ramp up really quickly in March of 2020. Fortunately, Purdue and our alumni association and our engagement side were really highly, already doing things digitally. We were already doing webinars. We were already doing things. It took us some tweaking to figure out what our audience wanted to know. But when everybody went into pandemic mode, it was like, well, do we take advantage of this and offer a bunch more stuff? Do we still kind of be that wellness resource and try to offer, things around, personal activities and
Right.
calming activities? And so it took us probably 6 months to kind of really learn and get under our belts what we knew would resonate with our audience. And I think it's kind of funny because I think all of us were in that same boat. March and April were the months of, webinars around, this is how you learn to work remote, and this is how you manage a remote team, and this is what it's like using Zoom.
Right.
And that quickly, evolved into people, being burned out, and myself included.
Yeah.
I would have, back-to-back Zoom meetings, 30-minute segments out of each day and have, 16 different meetings. And then it kind of like calmed down. But for our audiences, then we saw that, okay, not everybody wants to learn. They want to learn things that they find interesting and have an affinity for. One of the biggest things that we found is, we had a great idea from some of our staff to do some of our educators. We have a college of education, so we have a lot of school teachers. Well, we had all of our school teachers volunteer, and they read bedtime stories at like 7 o'clock every night for like 2 weeks during the pandemic, just to give a break to, parents and kids and everything. And that resonated well. And then we found that, doing a wine appreciation webinar really resonated to the point where people wanted to do the wine courses. So we worked with, across campus with our Purdue Online team to develop wine courses that we could get people engaged with, and they could do, one week kind of wine course or 6 1-week wine courses and learn a wine appreciation from some of our, agriculture or College of Agriculture staff. And that really, picked up of, hey, this is something fun to do. And yeah, I'm on Zoom, but I'm learning something that I'm really interested in learning, as opposed to I'm sitting in another Zoom meeting with, my supervisor, or, I'm just, going to church on Zoom, or, just catching up with people on Zoom. So it took a lot of testing, a lot of learning to see this is what's going to resonate with our audiences.
Got it. That's amazing. Yeah, I I definitely feel that Zoom fatigue, especially on Mondays. So definitely there with you. And I mean, that's part of the reason we're shifting the name of this as well. I think, a webinar, a structured webinar is a thing of the past slightly, right? And so I'm trying
Yeah.
to shift and create something new here as well. And
Well, I think the
which,
conversations always help.
right,
And,
yeah,
and that's the one thing I love about higher education is um, there's no competitive space, other than basketball courts and football fields. We're all open to sharing. And when you do share, you'll find 50 other people that raise their hand and like, we're going through the same thing at my university. Do you want to talk? And we just sit down and share ideas. And that's, one of the huge things that I love about higher ed is that everybody's willing to help one another. And I don't think you find it in a lot of industries. I'm sure there's, other industries where this happens too,
mhm,
but we're not, a pharmaceutical company that's sharing, industry trade secrets.
yeah.
We're sitting here saying this is how you can make it better. And I think that's phenomenal for an industry like higher ed to do.
That is a perfect segue into my next question, which is, do you have any advice for uh, this question before was about alumni marketing, but I think we can just switch to higher ed in general. Do you have any advice for higher ed marketers just starting their careers? I know you just mentioned one, but any other
Yeah, I was
advice?
going to say for those who are interested in marketing and higher ed and just kind of starting out, learn as much as you can. To me, the field's always shifting and changing. And even though the technology players like Salesforce and other groups are out there and evolving as well, listen to how they're evolving and what they're finding kind of fascinating. We talked about Slack and that how possibly can evolve into better communication. But it is thinking through those ideas and know that, especially in digital marketing, tomorrow is going to be a different day and there's going to be a new solution and a new
Right.
tool. So the more that you learn about it, kind of figure things out. If you're landing at an institution, the first question I would be is, what does your customer journey look like? And to me, that's really important because then it kind of shows you one, what the institution thinks of the customer journey, but two, where you as the marketer can kind of influence parts of that journey. And whether it's influenced through content and the messaging that you're sending out, or the
Mhm.
tone, or the brand influence, or the technology you're using to get to that segment, it just helps you understand that whole path of, okay, this is where a prospective student comes from. And is it a Google search, or is it somebody, that went to your school, that, your dad or your grandfather or something? And so figuring out what those customer journeys are and all the points along the way, to me, is really important.
Got it. Are there some resources that use to learn about the industry specific to higher ed on a weekly
Um,
basis or anything?
Weekly basis. So, Salesforce has their Trailhead, which is a free resource to do training and learning the technology and the CRM and that marketing
Yeah.
tech stack side of it. There's a group called High Ed Web, which is all around, digital professionals that are in higher education.
Hmm.
I'm a part of that, and I used to be on the board, and it's a great place where people share all their experiences and their information. There's quite a few others. There's EduWeb, there's Content Ed, which is based in the UK to talk explicitly around content. But I would kind of surf through Facebook and more LinkedIn to find some of those content marketing people or digital marketing people, because there are a wealth of resources of all the different conferences that are going on. And, oddly enough, in the last 2 years, a lot of those have been free. And it's really great resource to sit and listen to, again, people that have been in your shoes in the last 10 years or last 5 years, sharing their experiences and saying, hey, we had to rebrand our website. This is how we built it. We had to move into digital and a whole new email space. This is how we built it. And the more you participate in those conferences, those webinars and things from those groups, the more you learn. Sometimes when you do it from a corporate perspective or a solution, Adobe's really good at their conferences and everything.
Right.
You get a little bit of the lens through, what that corporate vision as Salesforce or Adobe or anybody along those lines. But when you find a group like High Ed Web or EduWeb or any of the other groups that are kind of doing it as a uh, gathering of professionals in higher ed,
Right.
you get more of the open sharing of, yeah, this is where we had a problem. This is where this failed, and this is where we tried it and it broke, and then we rebuilt it again. And to
Very
me,
cool.
that's that experience you get.
I'm actually a member on High Ed Web's Slack group. That's I think a pretty good resource too. And if you're looking for a job, they have job postings all the time. I think that's the most active channel on there too. So
Yeah, I was going to say
it's
that
a
there's
great
job
resource.
postings, there's, different discussion groups around analytics or
Right.
ally, and, being really kind of focused on, um, you know, the technology behind having accessible and inclusive websites, things like that, that are really important to us in higher ed. Those conversations happen all the time. And again, everybody's so willing to like help and be like, oh, we did this, you should try this. And so to
Gotcha.
me, that's a great community to have.
Got it. Thank you. Great. Well, it was great having you on today. I don't want to make this super long. So thanks so much for your time, Martin, and all the advice you just gave us and information. I really didn't know much about alumni marketing. So you're the first alumni marketer I've talked to on this. So that was super interesting. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been great to have a conversation. So any questions you have, just know where to find me.
Yep. Where can people find you, by the way? Do you have a LinkedIn, a Twitter?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Sickafoose. It's MartSickafoose. You can email me at mart@purdue.edu if you have any questions there.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.